Welcome back to the Two Dads, One Bodcast. I am one of two hosts, Dylz Tran, aka Who's Gonna Carry the Boat? And joining me is fellow co-host, John Shaw, aka Swole Mac Large, he reckons. And thank you once again for tuning in as we talk all things bodybuilding, nutrition, training, mindset, comp prep, how we do, and generally just sprinkle a whole lot of banter in between. The ratio is probably 90% banter these days and 10%, I guess, value and educational.
Yeah, it's along those
John,
lines.
how are you? For people that cannot see, John has an upgraded camera. He's got giant headphones on. He thinks he's the real deal. He thinks he is John Rogan. I'm sick of it. I'm done. What's going on, my friend? What's going on, my fellow online coach and swole brother?
Well, that's it. I just kind of decided to make another YouTube channel of commenting on UFC fights. So it's actually going
cool.
Exactly like John Rogan. I am. I would like to think so. But yeah, man, everything is good. It's been a bit of a kind of a whirlwind last few days. Fatigue certainly settled in. Just as I was saying to you or just before we kind of went on air, that I've started a deload this week, so was feeling a little bit beat up.
Was this a reactive or a planned deload?
Definitely reactive. We generally kind of don't necessarily schedule them. I kind of at a stage now where certainly understand when I'm in need. And I think it was kind of brought on by a couple of factors, like yourself, obviously, with Layla. Grayson isn't the greatest sleeper and has been going through a little bit of a phase the last week. I think he's getting some more teeth through. So he's a bit of a cranky pants and he's not really sleeping and he wants to kind of be in our bed. And so we have been kind of co-sleeping a lot. And it is tough just in terms of kind of getting comfortable and getting a good night's rest. So sleep has taken a little bit of a hit. About 8 weeks into this current cycle as well with training. And it's just usually around about that time where things start to get a little bit hectic in terms of fatigue and everything like that. So my eyes started twitching, like my left eyelid, like started going like all twitchy pants. So it's not that generally for me. I just said to AJ as I do, my eyes are twitching, bro. I think I need a rest.
Yeah.
So
man.
we kind of
eye twitch. I think it was like the first maybe 4 weeks of Layla being here, and I had this wicked eye twitch in my left eye, man. And I was like, I don't understand. I feel pretty good, but I guess it's like the kind of mind over matter thing. And I was probably really fatigued and quite stressed and obviously a newborn baby, but you don't really realize it. Like I feel pretty good, but I was like, but why the fuck is my eye twitching? This is not right.
Yeah, that's it. And like training's been being pushed like pretty hard over the last like 8 weeks. I would say in terms of kind of like the overall progressions of this kind of last actual training cycle been really good. Like this block's been really good from a progressional point of view, and body weight's obviously getting higher. Food volume, at least for me, at this stage is like fairly like mediocre, but I would say the main thing is kind of the lack of sleep is certainly kind of impacting, the ability to kind of really continue pushing on. And I think just having a week of just pulling back on the volume and just kind of pulling back a little bit on the overall volume, like I said, is just going to be kind of beneficial to kind of push it a little bit more next week. And I also know because I hit legs on Monday, and just before we kind of pulled the trigger on going and doing a deload for the rest of the week, I went my normal intensity and normal volume on legs, and my quads are fucked. So it's generally kind of an indication like, DOMs are extremely bad. My eyes twitching. I'm tired. It's probably a good time to have a bit of a deload, recharge, and then get ready to hit some PBs next week.
Yeah, cool. And you hit an all-time high weight on I think it was a few days ago. You sent me a photo.
Yeah.
Sent me a photo strap. I was like, "Oh, nice."
Before I put pants on too, as well. So you're lucky.
Oh my goodness! And how did you? Is it you obviously hit the 87. I think it was 87.1.
Yeah, 87.1 on Saturday. So 87.1 on Saturday. Then it's been 87 pretty much on the dot for the last 2-3 days.
Many like Also, can you tell that for our American listeners and what that is in pounds? Because I know I know.
It sounds better in pounds, like 192 pounds or something like that.
I don't think we have any American listeners, but
because I have to always talk in pounds when I'm talking to AJ as well. He probably's like a kilo. What the heck are you talking about?
Pounds over there. I thought they do things in kilos as well.
I don't know, but I think he's
So
kind of full
used.
bodybuilding mindset. So like I would say like he deals with pounds probably a lot more frequently than I guess we would over here. But yeah, I think it's like 190 pounds or something like that.
Decent.
Yeah, one of my mates was like, surely you get to 200. And I was like, well, Dylzy dog will be at 200 pounds.
I think I would be.
Do those calculations. I think it would be. So, but yeah, 87.1 is like the highest I've had so far. That was, it was off of a large bolus feeding the night before. So I did have kind of like a little bit more food volume at quite late before bed, actually.
Fake news.
On the Friday. So it was a little bit of fake news, but I've kind of stayed around about 87 pretty much on the dot for the last 2-3 days. So it is up around there, which is great. Which is a high weight and the highest average and the best composition that I've been at this weight, which has been good. Training's moving well. Same old shit. It's just dealing with kind of the lack of sleep and ultimately, but it's been good. Like family life's been really great this week as well in terms of like Grayson's actually like saying a lot more words, which is cool. He's stringing like 2 words together now. So he's almost kind of forming sentences, which is really awesome.
You got a fucking genius on your hands.
Mate, he loves to say don't touch because it's something he hears very often. So he goes, oh, hatch. It's so cute. And then he also says, like I said, I love you the other day. And I swear to God, he repeated it. But then he won't do it. He hasn't done it since. And just thinks I'm lying. So,
I can't wait.
So that was a cute one. Otherwise, yeah, he's just kind of repeating a lot of what we say. And his main thing at the moment is stuck. So like if we put him in the pram, for example, and we take him out, or we put him in his his high chair when he's having like lunch or dinner or something like that, he would like try to pull himself out, and he goes hack. And we're like, nah, bro, you're not stuck. You're just sitting down. You're not stuck there. You're just sitting down, kind of thing. And he's like,
how old is he?
Hack.
How old is he now?
He gets all stressed. Hack. He's 17 months now.
And what's that in weeks? What's that in weeks? Sorry,
weeks.
I only measure
it's
things
in months. It's in months until he's 2, and then it's by years. That's how it works.
17 months, man. That's.
He's doing good, man. He's doing good. And
bro, like I don't know much at all. I mean, Courtney is a bit more, obviously pays much more attention to that. But like, I was like, oh yeah, I had a client over the last week, and she was like, oh, we're going to have to cancel the sessions. Her babysitter or whoever was supposed to look after her young kid, and I was unavailable, so I was like, hey man, bring him down, it's all good. Like if you're cool with him coming, I'm happy to kind of watch him as well and still get our sessions in, opposed to just not getting them done at all. So she brought him down, and I think he was like similar age to Grayson, and he's just saying all these words, and I was like, oh my God, you got a genius on your hands. Yep. So yeah, I don't know kind of what age it is, but hey man, putting sentences together almost is pretty crazy for 17 months.
I'm trying to teach him show me your muscles. So I do like a little front double bicep, and I'm just like muscles, and he just like kind of stares at me just like in awe, like most people do.
I do.
And I'm trying to get I grab his.
Don't poke him in the eye with your stipples, please.
So I grab his arms and I lift him up and put him into a bicep pose, and I'm like muscles, but he's not repeating that one yet. But I can't wait for him to just one day and be like, oh, go show mum your muscles, and then he just goes and gets muscles. That'd be hilarious. Anyway. What about you, bro?
Thanks for asking.
I think I'll ask you this week how things going with you. I know you just come off of a deload, yeah?
Yes, off a deload, and just general. We do a very similar plans. Our cycles generally run for and cycles. I mean training cycles. People not test cycles. Okay, and we generally go for about 8 weeks. So around the 7-week mark, we hit a deload, which is more often than not probably right on time. And then coming out of a deload, we like to kind of complete this kind of program with another week, but it's more of a tapered week as well. So it's like a taper following a deload, just to give that body that extra rest. And It's always great because I kind of go from a deload where it's needed. Motivation kind of dips at the end of like week 6. So going into week 7, deload's there. So it's like sweet. And then throughout the deload period, it's like super. I'm pretty grateful for it because I'm like, I don't really want to think about training right now. And I just kind of get in there and get moving. And then by the end of the deload, I'm like, fuck, man, I need to lift something heavy. Like it's starting to fiend. So I usually rest on Sundays. Come Mondays is my first session of the week. And like I've just got myself in such a fired up mindset. And, you know, I'm telling Courtney, be ready. I want to hit some good numbers and make sure she's out there. So yeah, man, hit some good numbers with solid taper. I've so far hit all the numbers I've wanted to hit. Actually, yeah, I don't think
numbers, bro. I thought you were going to go somewhere completely different with that sentence for a second.
So after the numbers,
you better be ready because I'm going to hit that.
You better be ready because after I hit this 130, you know what it is, Gil. You know what I mean?
I'm going to be in the mood after this 130.
You know what it is. And right here on the Smith machine. And yeah, so I hit a 130 kgs on the Smith machine. I actually messaged you straight after just to let you know. This is the kind
of relationship we have, people. Like he literally will hit a PB and then just shoot me a message just bragging about it. So
just to assert the dominance. So 130 on the heaviest of all heavy Smith machines. So I was very happy with that.
It's like Thor's hammer. It's the Thor's hammer of Smith machines.
It is, bro. It literally is. And if you're not worthy,
you can't lift it at all. That's it.
It's just, it's good. Like, and I don't know how much more weight this Smith machine can honestly take because it's starting to make a bit of funny noises now.
Yeah.
But well, fuck. So be it. Because I ain't stopping, bro. I ain't stopping. Who's gonna carry the boats, man?
Is what it is.
I've been watching David Goggins' motivation lately. So yeah, that was pretty solid, and then I had legs yesterday, so I hit that 200 RDL for anyone that didn't see. Get onto it.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, I was happy with that. That was pretty heavy, and I recorded these ones, and then in my head I was like, "There's no way I could have got more reps." But kind of reviewing the video as we've touched on previous episodes, I was able to kind of go, "Okay, I had 1 or 2 left in me."
Yep.
And then I attempted a 5 plates on the Cybex squat. Right after those 200 RDLs, and I hit my final warm up, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if this is going to kind of move as quick as I want to," but I thought I'll give it a go anyway. So I got 4 reps out on the five plates on the Cybex, which I think is pretty fucking heavy. I've seen some people do it before, but yeah, it was rough. So I got a good solid 4 out.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, I'll take that. I wanted 6. I really did want 6, but 4 was good. And then that was pretty much. I don't think there's any other real main lifts that I do because pretty much when I go back into the things, it's just another repeated exercise anyway. Like Smith machine gets hit again, and RDLs gets hit again anyway. So
you gave us your highlights. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's it. And then I might put a bicep curl in there. I don't know. 12.5 kilo incline curl. I don't know. So yeah, training was really good. Coming off a taper. And with the check-in as well, we upped the food a little bit.
You had a food increase.
Yeah, we went just in the last check-in, just because even with the deload, with the obviously drop in intensity, drop in output, like the rate of gain didn't really move too much at all.
Yep.
So I was like, sweet, let's just push this. This will obviously be the final push, and I was really expecting to see 99 on the scale by now, but still hasn't been hit yet. It actually hit 99.
Bro, at this rate, I'm going to catch you.
Oh, bro, I swear this gone. So I jumped on the scale. Usually I jump on Mondays. Mondays are my heaviest during the week. Why? Because on Saturday, I actually have a high carb day. And not that I need like low days, high days at the moment. It's just how it was coming out of comp, and we've just kept it like that. So on my normal days is like 5-10 carbs on a Monday to Friday, or Sunday to Friday, and then on Saturdays it's like I think 600 plus carbs, which is pretty hard to get down. And so generally I do that high day on a Saturday. I don't bother weighing myself on the Sunday because it's just going to be probably non-representative of what I am because it's going to come off a high day anyway.
That one high day,
yeah. And then Monday I tend to be heavy as well, so it's kind of still dropping down. But then I weighed in this Monday, like, yeah, I'm for sure going to be 99. And it was still like even lower than the previous week. And I was like, what the fuck? And then it even dropped down a little bit lower on the Tuesday. And then this morning, like it tipped 99. And I was like, yes. And then it went down to 98.9. Like, you motherfucker. I even did the old jumped on there again just to make sure. And it still literally did the same thing. So I was like, one, fuck's sake. Two, at least I know that the scales is like pretty fucking consistent.
Yeah, but I jumped on the scale last night. I jumped on the scale last night just after dinner, just to fucking see what it was.
What was it?
With clothes on, 90 on the dot.
Woo. Wearing boots or what?
But I was like dressed like an Eskimo, so it doesn't count.
I was actually holding Grayson at the time as well. Yeah, Naz, look, I'm gonna hit. It will tomorrow. I'll be in the 99s for sure, just because coming off a rest day today as well. I tend to be my heaviest, but at the same time, it's like I'm not ever chasing numbers. I was keen to hit 100, but
you'll get there, man. It'll happen when it does. Whether it happens before you do your next tidy up or not, it'll happen. It's just, no point of forcing it, otherwise just get fat, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got a holiday coming up, which is actually real soon as well, so I probably won't hit it. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to hit it on holiday. But to be totally honest with you, I'm probably first time in my life. I have a feeling, but it probably will go the other way. But I have a feeling I'm going to come back from holiday lighter this time. I think just the amount of food I guess I'm eating now is probably a bit harder to keep up with. Not to mention I don't exactly have the old school fat boy Dylzy mentality of eating anything and everything anymore. So, I'll probably still keep it relatively clean, and obviously keep eating relatively clean is probably harder to keep up with your calories. And then just the amount of walking I'm probably going to be doing as well. Which is going to probably hurt me the most because my fitness is absolutely atrocious right now. It's so bad, bro.
Yeah, you'd have obviously less accumulated information from training and stuff like that, because the likeliness of you training as hard as you do when you're here is going to be way less likely too. So
yeah, I'd like to
end up actually dropping a little bit of weight, but it'll come back on once you get back into routine.
Yeah, I wonder if we do a tidy up. I'll probably be keen to do a tidy up. I'm probably at a point now where I'm kind of looking, going, okay, we're probably approaching that now, where I'm starting to, I could kind of feel the.
You take one look at that front double bicep, and you're just like, oh no.
I sit down, bro, and I decide to lift my shirt just to have a look. And I'm like,
I haven't seen my penis in 6 months.
I haven't peed standing up in quite some time. Just doing sitting down. But yeah, man, all in all, everything's good. I mean, Layla's absolutely, she's going on, she'll be 9 months when we travel, I believe. And man, she's just kind of hit this stride of everything. She's just picking up so much new things. So she started crawling the other day. It's so funny because once they kind of start doing something, and it's you encourage them so much, it's like, yes, go, and then it takes so long that the minute they do it, man, that's all they're doing.
Bro, put it this way, man, when we went to the UK, Grayson started crawling right for the first time the week we were there.
Oh my gosh.
The first day we got
didn't
in,
even know
he started
what to do.
crawling, right? 4 weeks later he was walking.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I've heard that when they kind of crawl, I know some kids are literally just start walking.
Yeah, man. So
he was walking. So what? He was walking before
and when I say walking, I mean he was standing up and holding on to stuff and that. It wasn't he was crip walking. Yeah, it wasn't he wasn't fully fluid with it like he is obviously now. But yeah, man, it happened real quick. So that transition time fast.
She's so fucking she's just doing all these funny things, man. And we actually Courtney had a consult with a sleep specialist the other day. I can't remember, I don't know who the lady was, but she was just over there kind of chatting, messaging and that, but she provided so much good stuff for such a really good price as well. So just more so not that we were kind of struggling in any way, but I think it's just trying to develop something, or just make sure that we have kind of right information and maybe a plan in place to kind of go about it, because and probably I speak more on behalf of my partner, but she's up a lot during the night, and it would just be little stints as well, just having to get up and put the dummy in the mouth and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's just it does accumulate after a while. It's we may be getting enough sleep, if you add up the hours, it's probably 7-8 hours sleep, but
it's always interrupted.
It's not quality, exactly. And their quality sleep matters. And I think that's why
The
I'm
feels.
always feeling a bit tired at the moment too. Like I'm like, fuck, man, I went to bed this time.
Bro, that you're gonna have that eyelid's gonna start twitching soon.
I hope, man, when it was twitching the first, like before, I was like, is this normal? When I was asking like a client who also had a kid, I was like, did your eye twitch when you had a kid? It was such a weird feeling. I was getting a little bit worried and it slowly went away. So I was like, fuck, good. I thought I was starting to develop some issues. But yeah, man, other than that, everything is all gravy. Looking forward to a holiday, looking forward to a bit of a reset. First one in a while. We've already kind of spoke about that, and then that's it. Then we're back, and it's just back on plan, and see how things go.
So I guess we should get actually into some content, hey?
No, I don't want to.
That's all right. All right, guys, it's been two dads signing out. We'll see you guys in the next podcast.
Thanks for listening, us. Follow Dylz for updated Layla pitch.
Exactly. All right. So we had a question come through. I'll kind of get your thoughts on it first, and then I guess anything to add, then I can kind of shoot on top of the back of that. But we had one whether it was worth banking calories to compensate for a day you're going to overindulge. So say, for example, you got like a dinner planned, or, you're planning a cheat day or something like that. Is it worth kind of under eating in order to compensate for the overfeeding that you're going to have?
I do kind of, I guess, implement that sort of strategy probably less often than I used to. I think it's great to, I guess, lessen the hindrance of progress if you're trying to strive towards a certain goal. But what I do like, I like to use them a bit, I guess, sparingly. Is that the right word? Sparingly now than what I used to. The reason being, because I think the overall kind of, goal is, I think it can be, sometimes we might get caught up and then kind of starting to implement this strategy too much as a habit. And I think it can't, sometimes I think I was mentioning to you before, sometimes we use it as like putting a Band-Aid over of what, I guess, can be kind of changed and I wouldn't like to say fixed, but something that could kind of be a habit and behavior that can be changed is going to probably benefit your overall goal more. And what I mean by that is like, the reason why you're trying to, you've hired a coach or whoever, or you're trying to stick to a plan is because you're trying to, create long-term sustainable results. And yes, I guess, for anyone that's more so Gen Pop and we're not looking at, trying to compete or trying to hit some certain goal or a goal that's a bit more extensive, whereas these strategies is probably going to help for long-term goals. But I think it's like, it should be something used where it's like, okay, this is going to probably just lessen the chances of kind of slowing down the progress for that certain week, opposed to using it like every single weekend. So when I've kind of done it with a client and they've had a certain event come up where they've gone out or they had a birthday or something social, and they've always messaged and gone, hey, I'm nervous about this weekend. How do I kind of still participate, but, I don't want to kind of throw away the progress or throw away the work I've been doing for that week or two. And then I'm like, okay, let's try doing the banking the calories. However you might do it, for myself, I always still prioritize protein. Let's drop the carbs, let's drop the fats throughout the day. And then wherever they eat or wherever they indulge, I guess, is generally going to be high in carbs and high in fat anyway. And then it generally works. I mean, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's much better than just like absolutely going in blind and just overshooting your calories and fully, derailing your progress for that week or the hard work for that week. And then it generally works. But then I've had clients who's like, then they use that like every weekend. Hey, I'm doing this weekend. I'm going to do the same strategy. And it's like, it's good. But now it's kind of like, if this is going to become a regular thing, then that's probably going to be, even though we think we're trying to, I guess, not slow down progress, it's going to slow down progress anyway, because now we're kind of, not having that same consistency from a week to week base. And, it's going to impact, I guess, the consistency throughout the week, that we can't really make any real adjustments, for ongoing progress. So, I think it's a great tool to use. But I do think you're probably going to get a little further with your progress and your long-term results if you're able to, I guess, understand and prioritize kind of your goals more over than just being like, okay, I'm just going to do this strategy every single weekend or so regularly. You know what I mean? Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does, man. And I think like just on top of that, I think it can be a pretty, if it happens regularly, I think it can be a pretty dangerous line between restricting for the sake of living for the weekend.
Yes.
You know, so
yes.
so I think, you know, if people are kind of thinking like, oh, I've got to kind of undereat in order to kind of fit in this food that I want to eat, as opposed to the food that I don't necessarily want to eat during the week, it can be a little bit of a bit of a shit mindset to kind of take into your approach. And like, I think it's certainly more, you know, from a fat loss perspective, obviously if you're eating out or, you know, you're kind of going outside of your routine over the weekend, like you said, it's going to make it harder to lose fat. And I think the opposite direction is if you're doing something similar when you're in a growth phase, and then you're going into the weekend and you're doing something similar, then you're maximizing more your ability to kind of put on more body fat. So you're kind of doing the opposite like way around or kind of thing. So yeah, it's a tough one because, you know, obviously like, you know, we want to have quote unquote some level of balance, right? Like with Gen Pop and everything like that, we can't expect everyone to be athletes and bring their Tupperware containers out to, you know, their dinners and all that kind of thing. But I think the more regularly you do participate in kind of like eating out and everything like that, like again, that's a lifestyle, and if that's a lifestyle you want to maintain, then you've got to might have to be somewhat okay with potentially those results coming a little bit slower at you know, as a kind of trade-off. So yeah, it can be a tough one. I mean, I have used kind of calorie banking in the past. I think it depends on the person and as well, like how you necessarily apply it. From a fat loss perspective, I would say if someone just had kind of like a planned night out or a planned dinner, I would just kind of say more times than not, just go back to your normal shit the Sunday. Try and compensate a little bit on that day. Don't bank calories throughout the rest of the days or the rest of the week. Just Sunday, go back to your normal. That's what I would say probably more times than not, simply for the fact that, yeah, I think kind of constantly banking calories gives you the license to undershoot it for the sake of splurging.
Yeah. I like how you kind of used I guess the term of like restricting yourself. It's similar to like when people go to the gym to punish themselves because they had a bad night out or they overate, you know what I mean? And it's not the relationship you want to kind of develop with, I guess, around eating, or the relationship you want to develop around yourself. You're kind of taking away, I guess, the primary reason of eating good. And that's in quotation marks, you know what I mean? And trying to, you know, then we're starting to chase the prize and not the process, and you're focusing on just trying to achieve a certain look, opposed to being like developing these actual habits and behaviors that you can be in place, which are going to, that's what's going to yield the very best results, not having to implement these things all the time. And yeah, it's not, I think there's definitely different ways to kind of go about it. There's different, I guess, strategies and ways to implement things to, I guess, use in situations like that are probably going to be a little bit, you know, they're not going to be as easy to implement, but I do think they're going to probably benefit you a little bit more, you know what I mean? And, you know, one of them is like, you know, I mean, how many times have you gone out and just decided not to? We did it last week. You know, we went to lunch after our podcast with the boys, and you brought your meal. I already ate before. And
I wasn't even allowed to eat it.
And John wasn't even allowed to eat his meal. He brought it out, and the person was like, hey, do you want...
Put that away. I was like, what? What do you
Be
mean?
my own bitch. And yeah, so, but like, it was just like, we just did that, and Aaron and Luke were like, cool, no worries, you sure? And I'm like, yeah. That was like, and Aaron was even like, cool, just going to be a cheap lunch for me, because he makes a lot of money, and he was going to buy us lunch. And
so
like,
he bought us watches instead.
Yeah, so he actually took me home in his Range Rover. But then, yeah, it's like, I get, and sometimes people, I guess, they either have that FOMO, that fear of missing out. It's like going out and not eating, or they're kind of a bit of fear of judgment too. So, maybe it's just one of those conversations to have with those certain individuals and those friends to help them understand that right now you're kind of prioritizing your goals and you're going to be there as a social aspect, but you're not going to eat. But, that could be an uncomfortable conversation for most. So people tend to just, I guess, give in, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Whenever someone kind of asks me about what they can do for a big weekend, I do kind of have a list of, I guess, a list of things or what we can do. The first one is kind of like, what we kind of spoke about on last episode was understanding the trade-offs and manage expectations. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What can we trade off? And if they're like absolutely like, hey, I want to have this meal, then that's when we could go, okay, do we really care about our progress for this week right now? Or are we just happy to kind of do what we do and then get back into it next week? And then, kind of let them kind of decide themselves, where they sit and what's important to them. Yep. And then you can kind of reverse it. It's like, okay, no, you still want to eat, but you still want to prioritize your goals and maybe look for the place that you're eating at. Is it somewhere that can be tracked? Is it somewhere that's going to be far more difficult? And I like to kind of do those things. Then at the end, it's like, okay, how about we just bank some calories and then see how we go from that?
Yep.
But then kind of understand. But rather than just being like, I got a week, I got something going on this weekend. Let's just bank these calories. Like I like to try work through options and maybe teach them some different tools. And then in future, they could decide whether what's going to suit them best or what's going to fit them best, and whether it's they want to prioritize their goals or they're just happy to kind of enjoy that meal or enjoy that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's it, man. And I would generally recommend that banking calories on the day is probably better than banking calories throughout the week or across the week. So like, for example, and you actually touched on it before in terms of that prioritizing protein intake, right? Like if someone's got a goal protein of 160 grams in a day, and they're going out for dinner, for example, I would just say, look in your breakfast, let's kind of, have X amount of free calories for dinner, just as a guesstimation. We're not going to get it 100% right. Depending on where you're going might depend on what that guesstimation of calories is. If they're going out to a burger joint, for example, you could just be look, if you just go a straight burger and fries, we could probably bank roughly 800 calories for that. And let's just make sure that you're within 30 grams of your protein target going up to that. So for breakfast, you might just have, a bit of a lower carb meal, potentially with, as a protein shake with a bit of fruit or something for breakfast. And then, your lunch, you can have your chicken or whatever it is with some vegetables, maybe a little bit of pumpkin or something like that, just a lower carb option to kind of make a little bit more room calorie wise for that dinner. And then by the time dinner comes around, you've got 30 grams of protein left, 800 odd calories. And then, so at least, you're going to hit your protein target. And you might not hit your calorie target. You might go over slightly, but you're not going to ruin your whole week's worth of progress, at least that way. You might have a bit of a weight fluctuation because you're having a meal outside of your normal routine, maybe a meal that's certainly higher in sodium as well, a little bit more water retention going into the next day, but it's not going to be body fat. The thing I like to say as well, I like to reiterate to a lot of people is that, a kilo of fat is 7,700 calories.
Yeah.
So if we're thinking of being in a deficit, for example, across the week, if we're in a fat loss phase of anywhere from 300 odd calories a day and you times that by 6, I can't do the math right now, but, that'll give you
do the math right now.
Hang on, I will. I'm going to get my phone out. So if you're in a 300 calorie deficit, so that's what, 1,800 calories, right? So 1,800 calorie deficit across the week, and then you're leading up into your meal. As long as you don't have 1,800 calories over what your maintenance is on that day, you're not going to ruin your progress. So if you're getting within the ballpark of your calorie target, you're still going to be in a deficit for that week and you're still going to lose body fat regardless. So unless you actually eat over that point or eat over your over 7,700 calories, essentially, you're not going to put on a kilo of body fat. So it's not something to really stress about. And it's more times than not, is why I say to most people, look, just have the meal, but just get straight back onto it the next day. It's a lot of the time, sometimes when, you have alcohol into the equation and things like that, where those bad choices carry on to the next day as well, because you're nursing a hangover, then you're not hungry, or you tend to go for comfort foods and all that kind of thing, where the one day or one meal turns into 2 meals, 2 days kind of thing. So, and that's where the whole week can be lost, So mainly that's the main thing. And then obviously when you're in a growing phase, if you're
Doesn't matter
banking,
too much.
it doesn't matter as much. But if you're also banking calories across the week to compensate for one day, then that would matter, because
Yeah.
then you're dipping into your surplus on your other days, and you're affecting your ability to actually grow muscle day to day, in order just to kind of compensate for your own gluttony, really,
Yeah.
for a lack of a better word.
I think these are all like, I do think this kind of goes on to, I think there's a certain responsibility of that client or that individual, and there's responsibility on that coach as well. Like this is how this is a good reason why everyone or anyone that's on some sort of fitness journey, whatever, is there needs to be an understanding. Like you need to, and I know people don't want to learn things, but there needs to be some sort of knowledge and understanding around energy balance, around calories, around macros. And it's there's been a range of clients I've had, and I'm sure you're the same. There's a lot of people out there, like, I've when you kind of mention that these things, it's time to learn these things, no one really that interested. They're just like, hey man, can you just give me my meal plan? And that's where it's like it gets a bit difficult when it comes to, like, because you can't exactly go, hey, bank your calories, when they don't really know, and then you got to go, okay, how about a meal one? We take this, like, and then it does nothing. It does nothing but, it kind of put a band-aid over things. So if you could, I think a great power and skill to have, if you really want to be in control of things and be able to, I guess, implement some sort of strategy or know how to make the right decisions, is you have to build up your knowledge at the end of the day. You know what I mean? When you tell someone banking calories and they don't know what a calorie is, they're going, they're not going to get anywhere with it. And then that kind of strategy is probably not going to go very far at all. And I think it's a responsibility on the client to have, I guess, some sort of slight urgency to be like, okay, I should probably build up my knowledge around this area. But then it goes to the coach as well, like at least try and encourage them to learn how to do things, learn how to track, teach them a thing or two in nutrition, so that there is a much, I guess, better understanding around situations like that and how you could do things. Because, I mean, me and definitely when we start talking about weekly calories and surpluses and deficits and all that, like, to us, it's like, okay, we just know this is second nature. But to many people out there, they're like, then it starts, what is it? They start to get paralysis from over analysis too much, and tend to not go anywhere. So, the more knowledge you have, the more power you have, the more control you have over your results, what I mean? Your ability to progress without a plan always in place, or without always constantly having that coach to kind of fix things up for you.
Yeah, that's it. I wholeheartedly agree, my dude.
Cool, man. I've got a bit of a topic. One thing I just like to chat about. It's not really a question; it's more of a topic. And I think it's something that people could probably take away from this episode as well, where it's like I've had a couple of clients as of recent, or a few clients as of recent, where they've had some major kind of, I guess, lifestyle changes, mad lifestyle changes, you know what I mean? And obviously these lifestyle changes has I guess impacted their ability to be able to adhere or comply to the program that we originally set out, you know what I mean? Whether it was hit the gym this many sessions or try hit these macros and hit these targets. And, over a course of, I guess, a couple of weeks or a few weeks, obviously their adherence was quite low. And you could see that it was kind of impacting their motivation in a way, a bit of their motivation and just making them feel shit overall, you know what I mean? Where they're kind of like, oh, I'm not hitting this program. So make them feel like they're failing in a way. They're feeling like they're failing. I'm not sitting there going, you're failing. And I'm sure you would have had the same with many clients yourself, even yourself, maybe obviously being clients ourselves or being, I guess, quote unquote athletes ourselves when we've had some major lifestyle changes. And, there's always, I guess, two kind of roads about it, where on one side, if they take the turn, they might just be like, hey, I've had clients that go, I'm going to, let's just have a break right now. I can't stick with the program. And they kind of wrap things up. But, big shout out to the clients I was just speaking about, because they've had some major lifestyle changes. And man, to be honest with you, at times I was like, oh yeah, I think that, they're probably going to finish things up. But they chose not to, because instead of that, they just kind of, we had a good chat. We caught up on a phone call, and instead of kind of just wrapping things up and feeling like everything was a bit of doom and gloom, we were able to, I guess, adjust the program. You know what I mean? And reassure the clients that during this time it's not we're not failing. We just need to adjust, I guess, the expectations of what we can achieve during this time, and maybe make that program a little bit more realistic. For one of them, for example, during this super stressful time for them, like, I don't want to add additional stresses to them by trying to put pressure on them to, I guess, hit macro targets. You know what I mean? This much protein, this much calories, this much carbs, this much fat. Instead, we kind of like pulled back a bit and was like, hey, how about we just aim for overall calories and protein at this stage and see how that goes. But our main priority is getting to the gym. So I think there's an aspect like trying to let people know that, there's definitely ways to adjust things. Don't just, throw in the towel. Don't think, stopping is going to be the answer during that time. Just try adjust things to a point where it's going to be a bit more easy for them to kind of follow.
Yeah.
I think, people think like it's either going to be an absolute 100% thing. If they can't give that whole program 100%, it's 100%, then what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah. All or nothing mindset, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think on that as well, I think a lot of people as well, like, when they in that position where obviously motivation is real low, they're kind of getting down because they can't hit targets, and that you've got that mindset of feeling like you're failing, in a way. And I think that kind of hurts a lot of people's kind of perception that, hey, I'm not going to get anywhere now. If I can't follow this 100%, then I can't do it. And, that isn't the case. And like results can happen in many different facets. And I think it's like a largely amount of just prioritizing your, like what you can prioritizing and just managing your expectations for the certain timeline that you're in, and if you've got like, for example, you've got a lot of shit going on and you can't dedicate the amount of time or prioritize your goals, but you can still work towards them in some sort of way, then you're not going to go backwards, at least. And when you're in those kind of slumps and when you're in those kind of high stress times, that's when you actually probably need the most accountability, because you're in a time where, like, if you did nothing or you had no plan or anything like that, you would do nothing. You would, like you said, you throw in the towel. So it's a matter of like, cool, if you didn't have someone there giving you a plan that, hey, you could at least follow at bare minimum, or at least give you the accountability to be like, all right, to be flexible and adjust a plan to suit this new kind of like, lifestyle or time that you're currently in, then you would throw in the towel and you go backwards. And if you don't want to go backwards and you want to maintain some level of progress, or at least bare minimum, like maintain for a period of time until like time, goes down, and then you're ready to kind of push the bucket again, then cool, then that's it. But I think it's understanding that both from a coaching and from a client perspective, that like these are the expectations and this is what's realistic for this time. Like if we can't put this level of effort in, we're not going to get this result. But if this is what we can do at bare minimum, then this is what we can get. And it's understanding that. But it's like, look, cool, if we did nothing and then we let high stress situations come through, and then, because you're highly stressed, you're not eating, or because you're highly stressed, you're eating like shit again, you're not training because you don't have the perceived time and all this kind of thing, because again, like stress is taking over and everything like that, then you're only going to go backwards. So yeah, just like on that, I think it's very important to understand that, like, look, you've hired a coach to kind of help you through situations that you weren't able to kind of navigate before. And like now that you're in a position where you need help with that navigation, like, man, let the coach take the wheel, bro.
Yeah.
Like, don't try and like sail that ship through fucking rocky seas by yourself if you're not a captain of a ship. So it's it's a tough one, because I think any coach listening, or even if anyone listening here who's probably had a coach has been in the same situation to a degree, and it's a plan and some level of accountability is always going to be better than nothing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and it's as long as you understand the expectations and the trade-offs, you understand that, hey, cool, this is what's realistic in terms of like expectations for results and everything like that, then you can be okay with that and then you can work towards. And then as soon as things are ready to roll, you're in a better situation. You're set up better to kind of like push again. Then look, cool, we can drop the hammer and go again.
Yeah. I think you touched on it. A really good kind of outlook on it all, which is like, generally, like, yes, it's kind of great to see a client, especially from, say, someone that's a bit more advanced, when their check-ins are real, you don't really have to address any struggles, don't need to make any changes, everything's pretty auto-regulated, and they're great because it's like, cool. Generally, a check-in with not much to say or much feedback to give is generally a good check-in. But if there's any time to utilize your coach that you hired specifically for this, if there's any better time to use, there's no better time to use them now, other than the time when you're struggling the most. You know what I mean? This is when you're going to be able to learn how to kind of overcome these things. Like, yes, it's all good to have a coach at Progress as well, and we're smashed all our sessions and we're smashing it. And we had a great week. Sleep's great. Everything's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. It makes the coach's job easy, but it's the times when, you struggle, and if you're on your own, essentially you would not be able to kind of get to the gym, or you wouldn't be able to stick to things. So this is when is probably the best time to utilize the coaches. Is the best time to actually, I guess, learn from these situations. And this is what I say to my clients all the time. Like, if you can show a level of adherence and a level of prioritizing and a level of just resilience through this tough time, getting through a program, for the most part, when it does clear and things do get better, how much you're going to be leveled up from there, how easier and how much better things are going to be when you're going to have a good run, which we all do. You know what I mean? Like, yes, there are periods of time they're going to be absolutely shit, and me and you kind of went through them a few weeks back, or currently going through them in that. But, during this time, if you're able to kind of stick to the things now, then fuck, man, when it comes to a good run, like, you're going to be absolutely leveled up. And I think sometimes we get like the amount of kind of people I spoke to, and they're like, oh, I'm just going through a bit of a rough patch. We're going to give everything a break for now. You know what I mean? Just like catch a breath, have a break. And I'm like, man, like it sounds good. Like, trust me, it's fucking nothing's kind of, it's hard to get to the gym when you don't fucking feel like going at all.
Yeah.
But you're going to feel much more worse when that kind of 1 week break, couple days break just rolls over, and the next you know, you haven't been to the gym in 3-4 months.
Yeah.
How many times have you had a client come back to you and go,
and you keep just like going through that cycle as well, like, because eventually something's going to hit the fan again, and then what's going to happen the next time? You're just going to throw the towel in again. You're going to have like 12 weeks worth of results, cool, and then all of a sudden, high stress situation comes in, you get overwhelmed, and then you throw the towel in again, and then 12 weeks later you're like, oh shit, I should probably pick things back up because my body is decomposed back to where it was before. And here I am again, and it's just like this constant cycle, and it's because like you never stuck with the process when you needed to stick with it the most, when things were hard. And that's where the real value of everything comes, because we're not just here to fucking blow smoke up your ass and pat you on the back after you've had a great week and a good result. Like, we're here. You want to be here to like learn from someone who has, and I'm not going to say mastered, but someone who has like built these habits to the point of where you're trying to get to. Do you know what I mean? Like, because like shit happens for us, for example, and for people who have all their ducks in a row, and you can still micromanage a few things while still being in a high stress like situation. It's simply because your habits are there. It's like waking up at a certain time in the morning, even though you got a stressful day ahead of you. Like, you still wake up in the morning at the same time. Like, it's just a habit that you have. So like when it comes to managing your nutrition or however it is, like, you can still take a result away from the week because you've got those main habits there that are kind of like really controlling your overall outcome. But I think for a lot of people,
how many times did you, sorry for interrupting, how many times, actually, I'm not sorry. How many times as a PT, honestly, did you get this one where it was like, you're working with the client and you're like, how's things going? And they kind of tell you that they fell off a bit like this, or this. And then they kind of turn to you and be like, oh, if I had your job, if I was in your shoes, it would be easier. You know what I mean? I'll be able to do this type thing. And it's like people kind of assume that because you're able to kind of adhere to the program, still hit the gym, still stay on your shit as a total, like they assume like, oh, you've got it easy, like thing. And it's like, no, like
There's plenty of people who don't have the job that we do who
no,
are adherent, and
yeah.
it's like that's just a cop out excuse. All that is.
We manage those stresses better. We
Yeah,
still,
it's just
we
yeah.
still,
I think if you take that mindset, it's just you're not owning up to your own kind
yeah,
of inability to stay adherent to a program, and like that's just kind of it comes down to ownership, and it comes down to like again like owning your faults and owning what mistakes that you've made essentially, and a lot of people can't do that, and that's why we say like owning up and just kind of owning those mistakes is a big thing because it ultimately takes you out of that blaming mindset. You're not here to blame someone else or blame the situation you're in. Like your actions are your own, and there's always an action that you can take to improve your current situation. Always, always,
yeah,
always, always. And and a coach can help you find that action or tell you what that action is. But at the end of the day, you're the only person who can implement it. So
yeah,
it's certainly stress and lifestyle changes are different for everyone, and everyone's situations are certainly different. So we might not necessarily have like the insight of a single mother or the insight of someone who works like night shifts or something like that. But hey, cool. Like I've got many clients who are single mothers. I've got many clients who have done night shifts. I've got like FIFO clients. Like there's ways that we can work around it. And at the end of the day, it comes down to communication. It's cool. Like what are your problems? Like where do you struggle? Where are the issues that you're having within this current program? Cool. Let's adjust so that those are now not issues, because again, like we don't live your life. So we can only put together a plan based on the communication that we've had in an initial period of building a program, so until that kind of open line of communication comes in, it's like, hey, like cool, first check-in, I was struggling to get my food in because I wasn't able to eat during this period of time, or like I was really tired, I wasn't able to go to the gym at this time. Then it can be like, all right, sweet, like can we prioritize maybe training 3 days a week instead of 4 days a week? Can we prioritize just focusing on getting a certain amount of protein in per day? Can we just do a calorie goal? Can we reduce how many meals we want to eat from 5 down to 4 or 4 down to 3? Like there's many ways you can adjust a program to make it suit your lifestyle, depending on obviously
it doesn't
what
always
it
have
is.
to be optimal. You know what I mean?
Doesn't, but that's it. And then optimal is just whatever you can adhere to. And if adherence is something you're struggling with for whatever reason, it might just mean that there's something in your program that may need to change, whether that be your mindset or whether it actually be something on the actual program. Like if it's something that you're just like, oh, I can't be fucked doing this, then cool, that may be an issue that you have, and that might be something you need to discuss with your coach. And then that might be where we come into it and just be like, look, get it going. Like, come on, like what are you doing? Like, and some people just need a bit of a sterner approach at the end of the day. And some people do need to kind of have like things just laid out so they can kind of be consistent. And, at the end of the day, like, fuck now, I'm not a babysitter. I'm not here to babysit you. I'm here to kind of help you through your situations, and I'm here to help you achieve a certain goal. If you just want me to, if all you want me to do is give you a plan, you follow it 100%, and then, like I say, give you a pat on the back and say, well done, good week, same as next week, then this ain't going to go very far, because the second you run into issues, all of a sudden you think that you're disappointing me because you haven't had 100% week, and then you're just like, fuck this, I'm throwing in the towel, I can't do it like 100%. And cool, then you're not getting the full value of the service that that we can provide or you can receive as from coaching.
Yeah, I'm definitely a bit more of a asking of a why. Like why do we need to change this as a coach now? I mean, I was probably, I think people kind of get it, like you said, like kind of babysitting in a way where someone's like, hey, can we change this exercise? In the past, I would have been like, yeah, sure. What do you want to change it to? You know what I mean? Where now it's like, hey, just recently I had a client be like, hey, can we take this one out? And essentially, I would, originally I would have been like, oh yeah, sure, man, let's do this one instead. But now I'm a bit more like, okay, why do you want to change it? Like, what's wrong with this exercise? For example, it was a chest supported row, chest supported T-bar row.
Yep.
I was like, why do you want to change it? And they're like, oh, it gasses me out. I don't breathe properly. And I'm like, okay, well, how, like, why is there a certain way that we're sitting on the pad, like what it is, and especially if it's an exercise that you kind of specifically put in the program because you think it's a great exercise. I'm not going to be, oh yeah, no worries, we'll change this thing. And that's the same to a meal. Hey, can we change this meal? I'm sick of chicken. And it's like, okay, how do we kind of, like, are you just sick of chicken, or maybe it's the way, it's just kind of different ways to go about it, and see if, like, can we change certain things rather than just kind of changing the whole entire thing. And I think that's a key, like, because at the end of the day, man, like, what happens when this coaching relationship ends tomorrow? Like, then you have no ability to, like, then you're just going to go back to your old ways of being like changing things when things could get, again, a little bit repetitive, where we like to kind of, talk about consistency a lot, and we don't want quick fixes. You want understandings of things. We've all been now. I've had a recent client, for example, and not just one. Like, this happens on multiple times. I'm sure you can relate. Like, how many times has a client achieved great results with you, and then they kind of wrap things up after a certain amount of time, whether it is because, or a lot of time it is because, just things going on at the moment, bit of stresses, and then they're like, maybe we can't do the program at this stage, and they return a few months later, and they're back to kind of where they were, square one, or even worse, they've even reversed their progress, and they're in a worse position. So I've had that a few times. I had one client come back, and he was actually, when a little bit, like, he started a certain way and he came back a bit heavier and holding more body fat. And he was like, hey man, would you take me back on board? And I said, look man, I'm happy to help, but now we've definitely, like, I want to make sure that this does not happen again. You know what I mean? Like, So how can we approach this program this time to make it different? What can we do different? And a lot of it's just more so educational and then understanding and learning a bit of things, opposed to just being like fixated to a single plan. Here's a meal plan, here's this. So, we're doing a bit more understanding of how to substitute certain foods, how to kind of take a step back, and when stressful times happen, which it does happen for him quite often, being a dad, fifer, and all that, and there's always, just life in general. So instead of just being like, fuck it, when something happens, he just throws in the towel, we're able to kind of, minimize our expectations, adjust to certain things, and still be able to see progress at the end of the day, and just kind of showing the bigger picture of things. So it's like, it's there's so much more you can kind of get out of a coaching thing, opposed to just being, I guess, quote unquote, babysat and just following a certain program.
Mic drop. Yeah, exactly.
That's 56 minutes, my G.
Yeah, man. It's probably, like, to be fair, like, probably time to kind of wrap it up. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of close in on before we shoot off?
Negative. I think we're good. I like you. I mean, people keep sending through questions. Obviously, I'll fly out soon, and then when I get back, we will get onto our next guest and just catching up in person.
Yeah, well, you fly out Friday, don't you?
One of the
The Friday
next
28th?
week she'll be able. Yeah.
So we'll get our normal one in next week, but then we might be on hiatus for a week. What do we do? Maybe double film.
I think I might be back before. Anyway,
right, we'll suss it out.
Yeah,
we'll suss it out. We won't leave you guys hanging. Don't worry.
I'll get on the, bro. I'm telling you right now, 6 months of consistent episodes. We haven't missed one, baby.
That's it. It's
24 episodes.
Even if you're in Singapore, we'll get it. We'll get you.
I'll get it. I'll
via live feed. Like we do every week. This is live feed. I guess it's not really live.
The phone up.
We've actually already recorded it.
Wrap it up, baby.
All right, sweet. Thank you guys, obviously, for listening. And you can find this podcast on Spotify. And if you haven't already, then make sure you jump on, give us a 5-star review, as it really helps the podcast grow. And man, I think we're at like 20 odd 5-star reviews now. But in saying that, I think we have about 38 regular downloads and listeners each week. So if you haven't left a 5-star review, do it now. Do it right now.
I got asked yesterday, like, I bumped into a few people and they're like, hey man, how's the podcast going? I was like, I said, I just do it, just catch up with John, we just talk shit. Like,
it's going
whether
good.
it's 1 listener or 100 listeners, man, we're still going to be here doing it. It's
exactly
just,
right.
just grateful for the fact that people do like to tune in and let us listen to us talk some shit.
100%. And guys, if you aren't following both of us on social media or on Instagram in particular, myself, John_Team JSF, and at Dylz Tran, you can follow us to follow along with our daily lives and also kind of follow along with some good, valuable content. and chuck a question in our question boxes when we throw them up, please, so we can get some of your questions up for this podcast. We had a few come through, but that actually ended up taking quite up a lot of time, actually, more than I thought, to be honest. But until, I guess, next week, mates, it's Two Dads signing out, and we'll leave it there, man.
Peace.